Anderson with Intellisense Systems, and today I'm here with Ryan Guerrero, our Business Development Manager for our Flood Sensing Networks. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Morgan. It's good to be here.
Over the last couple of years, Intellisense has been working with the Department of Homeland Security and the City of Charlotte, North Carolina. So tell us about Charlotte-Mecklenburg and why this project was so unique.
Just to clarify really quick, when we say Charlotte-Mecklenburg, we mean Charlotte, the city, within Mecklenburg County in North Carolina. So it's the entire county, but it's one of the fastest growing cities in metro areas. It's got about 800,000 people that's adding every 10 years. So I mean, very, very fast growing. And so they have to be concerned about the flood and flood response for all of those people, and very, very flashy flooding. So very unique situation to deal with.
Definitely. What were some of the challenges they were facing?
Yeah, so the challenges were very similar to challenges they face all over the world. So they wanted to reduce fatalities, minimize those as much as possible, reduce the amount of property damage that they saw, and then also just support the overall resiliency to the flooding event for the community. So those were the major three things that we're trying to improve. Now, the challenges they see is that their flooding happens very, very fast, or what they would call flashy flooding. They have hurricanes that sweep up very quickly that produce a lot of rain. A lot of rain turns into a lot of floodwaters, and so they have things that they have to do with their, they have miles upon miles of riverways, and they have thousands of structures that are put into floodplains. And so being able to accommodate for that is a very difficult thing to do.
What were they using prior to the solution?
Yeah, they were using more traditional gauges that are produced and used by the U.S. Geological Survey or USGS. The stations are very, very accurate. However, they're very expensive and hard to put into many locations because budgets aren't acceptable to that kind of expense. And so they needed a solution where what they had was 50 stations in this entire flood basin. They needed much like 100 to 150 stations, and so being able to buy it, purchasing a lower cost is what they were looking for.
So how did Charlotte-Mecklenburg go about finding a new solution?
Yeah, so we actually were in contract with the Department of Homeland Security, Science and Technology for what's called a Small Business Innovative Research Program, or SBIR as we call it. And the whole point of the SBIR was to find a way to produce lower cost systems that required less maintenance, to be able to not just replace, but mainly augment the expensive, more traditional gauge sites that are out there, so that counties like Mecklenburg County could find a way to produce a map of the flooding that actually accommodates the streams that they have and the flooding that they have, so that they could make those emergency responses in a more educated fashion. We went through and went to a bunch of different areas throughout the United States and noticed that some of them would require much greater benefit in receiving something like this. And Charlotte-Mecklenburg, with how flashy their floods are and the limited stations that they had, they would be a prime example for where this could benefit a community.
Tell us about the solution used in Charlotte-Mecklenburg.
Yeah, so there's 5 major areas that we'll go through with this. The first one being needed to be low cost. Low cost means different things to different people. Low cost, you can talk about the cost up front for a system, and you can also talk about the maintenance cost as you can see. So more traditional sites have high cost on both, and we were trying to accommodate minimizing the cost on both. So we introduced a pressure transducer that needs very, very little maintenance, and that's what they use to actually get the water level measurement. And then we also introduced the ability to have a two-way communication. And two-way communication allows you to program the station remotely and not need to go on site every time there's an issue or every time you want to change something. And that every time you go out there is you're paying wages and lots of different expenses that go along with on-site visits. The second thing that we would go through is compatibility. We needed to be compatible with being a kind of a drop-in replacement or drop-in addition to the existing networks. Now, CharlotteMecklenburg had two different software platforms they were working from. So they had their own software, and then they also had a software that was used for the entire state. And so we need to accommodate both of those, but then we're also trying to think ahead with these newer projects. They would also be needing other third-party software that they would need. So we provide our own, but then we also provide the ability to be compatible with those others that are out there. The third is reliability, and what that comes down to is we need to be able to deploy these things for long term and have them operate autonomously, and not have people out there constantly adjusting and tweaking things. And so that was a huge focus point for us in our development. We also needed them to report status and to report on any failures that were happening in the field, so that you didn't have to sit there and constantly watch them and worry about the state, what they were doing. The fourth is accuracy, and simply stated that needed to be fairly equivalent to what was already existing. It wouldn't make sense to try and produce something out there that was of lesser quality in terms of accuracy if you're trying to make decisions off of the data that you're getting. And then obviously the last is durability. These are going to go through hurricanes. So nasty winds, rainstorms, everything you can think of, these are going to be exposed to, especially on those coastal lines. You're dealing with salt fog and other things like that too. Making sure that they can last those long deployments again was very key.
Tell us about the solution used in Charlotte-Mecklenburg.
Yeah, so what was designed was a small self-contained device. So that device actually not only had the monitoring system itself, but its power system of management included in the small device. And so we didn't have to have external power supplies, external solar panels. We could fit one device, easily set up, put on a pole, put it on a bridge, very cost effective in its installation, but also very small and discreet, which deters from vandalism, getting those things stolen or spray painted on or what have you. And then we also went into designing accessories to be also very cost effective and low maintenance. And so we first developed a water level pressure sensor, or commonly called a PT in the industry, and we commonly call ours a WLP. And so this WLP was designed with a breakaway connection as one of its main features to it. That breakaway connection allows that if large debris in these flashy systems were to take out a WLP, it breaks away from the main unit and doesn't allow the more expensive main unit to need to be replaced. That was one thing. The second thing is we use differential measurements between the WLP and the main unit to calculate an offset for atmospheric pressure. Often that's done through a tube that goes, an air tube that goes down to the main sensor, and that sensor then needs to have that air tube be free of any moisture, so you have to desiccate, and that requires people to go out and replace desiccant and get the air to be fresh and clean through that line. Now, ours doesn't require that, so it requires less maintenance, less trips out, and that was kind of the whole focus point there. The other part of low cost is the installation process that was kind of talked about there for a second, but really being able to throw this thing onto a pole or throw it onto the side of a bridge, as long as it's south facing so you can get that solar exposure, you really put these wherever you need to. And that requires less planning, less zoning, just it makes it a lot easier in the overall installation.
A more streamlined approach.
More streamlined approach, exactly. We could have 3 or 4 of these installed by one person, rather a traditional site which takes 2 technicians typically to install 1 per day. So very streamlined, cost effective for the county to be able to put a lot of these up in very little time. So as we discussed, needing that compatibility is a second point. We then put into our design a very simple structure when it comes to connection and compatibility to servers. We're using a very widely accepted IP connection, basic internet connection, between the cellular modem and the server. And so we can use our own software provides the commands back and forth as well as the data integration. We've also partnered up with a few other software platforms out there, like the platforms used by CharlotteMecklenburg, where we can point that IP or that connection to their server and not have to go through a middle connection. if that's what's required. So it makes it very streamlined, very easy to use by any person out there looking to use either their own platform or to use the one provided by us. So reliability was the next big ticket item. Reliability, we tested over 12 months on those initial systems, and those systems proved to be about 90% reliable. And so, which was really good for, first systems. Since then, we'll talk about later, we've introduced different items that could improve on that reliability. And so we're seeing a lot better yield now, but that was where we kind of started off, was at the 90%, which was great.
That's a great first go.
Yeah. So then the next would be our accuracy. Our accuracy needed to be comparable, maybe not exactly to those much more expensive, but very comparable. And so we tested over those 12 months, and we came within it was like 400th of a foot or less than half an inch accuracy of this, similar to those big expensive systems, which is kind of what we're shooting for. Charlotte was happy, everybody was happy, so we're finally, we have durability. And with durability, we had a number of stations, 15 out of the 90, that did come back with communication issues. Now, it's a very low number, 15 out of 90, but we found out actually that most of those were due to vandalism, and some even for like location installations that were not very well suited for the actual site. So we didn't have any failures in regards to some external weather that was the issue. It was always kind of a man-made or installation problem.
How hard was this to install?
So the system design, very, very easy to install. So there's a mounting plate that comes with the main node and the water level pressure sensor. So you take the main node, you attach it to either a T-post or a fence post that you've installed into the ground, or it can be installed on the side of a bridge if you have permission to put it on the bridge. Then you simply slide the unit down on there, and there's security screws that attach it to the plate. Then you install your pressure sensor into the conduit. Make sure that the sensor is out of the water first, and turn it on. That allows the two sensors to calibrate so that you accommodate for that atmospheric pressure we talked about earlier. Once that's done, then you can simply install the system into the water onto a stake or something that you've put down into the water, and you turn on. You then wait for about 15 minutes, just so you can check your data on your phone. And you go to our website, or the website that you're used to, and you see the data coming in, and that's it.
What did you learn from this process? And what other solutions are available?
Yeah, so we learned quite a bit from this project. First off, we learned that our water level pressure sensor needed that plate to make installation a lot easier. We learned that we needed some other items as far as environmental sensing items that we didn't have. We needed a way to have a non-contact sensor, meaning that we didn't have a sensor for water level that was actually in the water. So like a water level radar is what we came up with. And that attaches above the water and so that you don't actually make contact. In these flashy systems, a lot of debris. We do have the breakaway connector, but if you're replacing that very often, it still becomes very not effective cost-wise. So we've produced that. With that came a little bit more power usage. And so we've now produced an auxiliary power module that adds more battery capacity and more solar energy to be able to run higher powered instruments off of this.
So during your high events, you don't have to worry about losing power in your system.
Exactly. So a little more shady areas, more power hungry devices, we can accommodate for those now with this power module. A couple other things we saw is that we needed to ruggedize a few areas. One of the main ones is we had a flexible antenna at first on for our cellular, and that became problematic, kept being broken off or mistreated, and so we had to find a different antenna, and that is more low profile, rugged, worked a lot better for us.
Where else is the solution being used?
Yeah, so right now it's being used in quite a few different locations. So domestically, we're in states like Kentucky and North Carolina, Virginia, here in California. In Utah, we have, going internationally, we have one that's been tested in Canada. We also use the same modem as we do in our micro weather station. And so that station has been used in lots of countries throughout the world. And so we know that the system will work internationally with the SIMs that we can provide. However, we haven't yet tapped into the international market with the flood sensor.
So if somebody wanted to purchase these, where can they find more information?
The best place to go is to our website, IntellisenseInc.com. At that location, you can go to our products. You can see the products, see kind of the details of them. You can also go download data sheets, product portfolios, the case study on CharlotteMecklenburg, and you can even get installation guides and user guides. So that's one great location.
One-stop shop, if you will.
Exactly. Now, if you're looking for a quote, you're looking for more information you can find there, email me directly. It's rguerrero, that's RGUERRERO @IntellisenseInc.com. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Ryan, and talking to us about this incredible project.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. It was great to be here.